back broke. Came back from Europe with like 26 cents in the bank account. I mean, I actually sold hot dogs for the first week to make the first month's rent.
The dream is absolutely free. The hustle is sold separate.
The hunger to be more, to do more, to give more.
You gotta go put in the work.
Success takes time.
What do I want to do every day for the rest of my life? Do that.
Brought to you by Mati Energy, it's The Healthy Hustle, a show where we interview today's movers and shakers, influencers, and entrepreneurs. Get an inside look into their stories and how they hustle to get to where they are today.
Hustle is waking up one day, the day before you die, and realizing you gave it your all, emotionally and executionally, in theory and strategy and in execution.
On today's episode of The Healthy Hustle, we are talking to Nathan Clendenin, a photojournalist, storyteller, entrepreneur, husband, father, and founder of StoryDriven, an 8-time Emmy award-winning marketing firm based in downtown Durham, North Carolina. Get the inside scoop from Nathan on how you can tell better stories to drive your business and on his story through media. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here with Nathan Clendenin, the founder and CEO of StoryDriven. How are you doing today, Nathan?
Doing great. Got my first Mati cracked open.
Getting the day started the right way.
That's right.
Well, I'm super stoked to have you in. It's always cool to get to connect with a Mati fan and a mover and shaker in the Durham community. So really appreciate you taking the time out of the day to come in and be on episode 2 of The Healthy Hustle. This is a big moment for us.
Awesome.
And given your background, what all you've accomplished in media and kind of your story through finding how to tell stories, I really wanted to start off with your story and get back to what are you thinking when you're 18 years old and you're just looking at the rest of your life. What are some of those thoughts that are running through your head as, what am I going to do next?
You want to start at the beginning?
Yeah, I want to go way back.
So I've always had kind of an adventurous spirit, but also just a positive spirit. Like I see the world and I'm like, those full of possibilities, you know, and that's really influenced how I go about the world.
What do you think was feeding that for you?
You know, part of it is my faith. You know, like I had cancer early on.
Yeah.
16 years old and had cancer in my nose. As a teenager.
Yeah.
Really humbled me. You know, I mean, because
no kidding.
I had to have my face carved up, and then I lost all my hair. And you know, all my classmates were really, really supportive and encouraging. Yeah. But it was a rough sophomore year.
I mean, what a time in your life where you can kind of make the decision to move forward, or I guess you could almost like come back.
Yeah.
And then, but it sounds like you made the decision to really keep driving.
Yeah, I did. You know, and you know, there's a lot of support from family and friends, the whole community. I went to a small school, a boarding school in Indiana. My dad taught there, so I was kind of the faculty brat kind of kid. But unfortunately, people liked my dad, so that was good.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of support. You know, I can't say I did it alone, but you know, I popped out of into that year going, if I can do that, you know, the world is my oyster, kind of. You know what I mean? Like
you already got over the hardest.
But
thing.
I was humbled at the same time. I mean, you know, because going into that year, I was God's gift to the world, you know, according to me. I was a sophomore. You know, you 100%. Kind of know everything, right? Yeah. So
like, look at me, and then this smacks you. Holy moly! I mean, what a time in your life where you're developing, you know, personally, physically, then to have this huge, you know, wave of or this huge issue confront you. Right. Was there a realization during that time that kind of helped you figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life?
Well, I'll tell you, it realigns your priorities for sure. I mean, you're kind of like, when you think about you could die and you're really faced with that real reality, all the small stuff instantly fades away and you see what's really important. Yeah. And so I wouldn't say I've kept that through. I mean, now that I've gone back to sort of living a normal, quote unquote, life, you know, it comes and goes, but I try to remember back to that just what's important. You know?
A good emotion to almost keep you grounded.
Totally.
When the other trials of life come your way, it's like, all right, you know, I already had something way bigger come my way. Right. Yeah. Well, that's incredible. I didn't know that story about you.
Yeah. Well, just pop that one out today.
Yeah. What a great place to start. And I'm sure like that'll just give this conversation just a great kind of framing for what you overcame at the beginning and what you continued on to do. So given how you're so focused on media now, you guys create some of the most inspirational story-focused content. Give us the entry into storytelling for Nathan.
So the prequel, I would say, was I'd spent a year backpacking around Europe, and this was early digital camera days. Like literally, I had this camera. It was 1 megapixel. This is before cell phones had cameras or anything.
Oh man, yeah.
And I didn't even know that I would need to like take something with me to download. I wasn't even. It was just so new. People were, I was just okay.
You just brought this to document the journey.
And so the thing filled up pretty quick. I had like a 256 megabyte card in there, which was huge at the time.
Yeah.
But it filled up, and so I would be borrowing people's laptops to like download it and burn it onto a CD, and then I could keep going.
Oh man, this is way back.
We were at this place it's a Christian study center called L'Abri in Switzerland. And there was a guy there with his cool Mac laptop. He was a designer, and he was redoing their website. It was a sweet gig. Like, he came to the Alps for, like, a couple of months with his wife, and he's just like...
Oh, this just sounds like the content dream. Let me go travel the world and develop websites.
So I'm, like, sitting there looking over his shoulder going, man, this is really cool. I want to do that.
Yeah, what's this guy doing?
So then he downloaded my photos, and he was like... sure, I'll burn them on a CD. But then he was looking at them. He's like, man, can I use these on the website? These are like really cool. Because I had been taking photos around there or whatever. And I was like, sweet. So I kind of stuck those two things in my head, photography and web design. All right, fast forward. I moved back, broke, came back from Europe with like 26 cents in the bank account. Went back to my parents and kind of resettled for like a month, sold them some of my stuff. They were nice to like buy my old computer. Basically a reason to give me money.
Yeah.
And then I moved to Chapel Hill. I was just hustling. I mean, talk about the Monty hustle. I was hustling, dude. I was waiting tables. Actually, I started as a cook at 411 West in Chapel Hill.
And these were the things you were doing just to get by?
Just to pay the rent. I mean, I actually sold hot dogs for the first week to make the first month's rent.
Holy moly, yeah.
I just like set up a truck.
Hustling hot dogs.
Set up a truck in a development in Charlotte before we actually moved to Chapel Hill with my buddy. And sold Nathan's hot dogs. They had to be Nathan's, right? And then
there's a little bit of the entrepreneurial spirit.
Totally. I mean, it was a 57 Chevy, beautiful red cherry truck. NASCAR, big in Charlotte, right? So he had a friend in NASCAR that donated us some cases of Coke that, they just had a garage full of Coke. So they gave us some Coke. It was pure profit on the Coke.
Yeah.
Anyway, made $350 for rent.
What?
And, moved
That's
to Chapel
incredible.
Hill. I was hustling.
Yeah.
I was putting my name on the boards at like Caribou on Franklin Street and all over the place. I'll teach you Spanish tutoring, whatever you could do. I was substitute teaching.
Was the mindset during this time is like, I have to pursue this creative passion and just make ends meet?
That's right. Yeah. I mean, I was trying to teach myself. I was trying to do shoots and just friends like, hey, let's do a photo shoot and whatever. And so I was just teaching myself, learning. I had a buddy who, actually I didn't know him. I got introduced to him through connections back at Culver, the boarding school that I talked about earlier, the mutual connection. And he was like, yeah, I need some Flash developer. Back when Flash was a thing. Like animating. And so he taught me how to do Flash. And so he started paying me to do Flash. Like
as a
$50
freelancer?
an hour. Yeah, I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And so I was doing all that, but at the same time, I was like, I'm going to grow a lot faster if I can go into a place where other people are doing this. Because it's hard when you're hustling the side
no
job.
Formal training.
You're tired when you come home, and it's hard to keep that going. And so I started looking at grad schools. There was a huge storm, the winter of 2002 or 3, I can't remember, shut everything down. The only place that was open on Franklin Street was this bar. And so everybody was there because it was warm, they had drinks, whatever. So I ran into another friend from undergrad. I went to Sewanee in Tennessee for undergrad. Ran into a friend. I was like, Anna, what are you doing? And so she starts telling me about the journalism school right here at Carolina. A friend of ours was doing the program, and they called it multimedia and photography. And I'm like, that's exactly what I want.
Lined up perfectly.
I never thought of myself as a journalist, right? But so I applied, got an interview. That weekend of the interview where they're interviewing you, not only if you get in, but also if you're going to get this fellowship, which will basically pay for it. It's like a full ride. Met Rebecca, who was already a student.
Okay.
She was helping people answer questions about, and I was like, I think I have some questions for Rebecca. So we started dating.
What a great move to come over here to the journalism school.
Right? So she was already here. I already lived in Chapel Hill. A lot of people were in from out of town, I already lived in Chapel Hill, so we started dating immediately. got pretty serious. I got in, started learning how to tell stories, you know, and fell in love with stories. That's
Is that at kind of the core of what the journalism school is teaching you, is to uncover those, or is that a passion?
Everything is stories. Yeah, I mean, it's every project we do has the word story in it. You know, my thesis was called Mama Lodi story. Actually, my thesis was HIV stories. And then later, my wife and I went back to South Africa, in the same community where I did my thesis work, and we had a blog called Mama Lodi Stories. So Mama Lodi was the township where we lived. So,
and during your time in the school is really when you were able to connect what you were doing with content and creativity to this passion for uncovering the stories, it sounds like. Right. And then you started finding different projects to put that effort into. And the first one, it sounds like, where there was really this expansive storytelling, was the HIV stories that you did as your thesis. Right. So run us through that project, because it's super interesting.
Yeah. So I met a pastor here in the area at the Chapel Hill Bible Church. They had an AIDS in Africa conference, and they invited all these different people from Africa and everywhere, epidemiologists and all that kind of stuff. And I met this guy named Vincent, and I was like, hey, I really like you. I want to do something in Africa. I don't know what it is. He's like, come to Mama Lodi.
Why Africa?
I just had it on my mind.
Yeah.
It was on my heart. I don't know.
I'm on like a super safari kick right now. Like
Right?
I got to get there, so I'm feeling the same way.
It's a beautiful country. They call it the dark continent, but I mean, that's just a bad rap, you know? I mean, I think it's such a beautiful place. And so I went to my professor, and he was like, if you're going to do something, you know, around AIDS and HIV, you got to do it different, because everybody, it's been done, you know, like the suffering and and I was like, I don't really want to do the suffering anyway. Like, let's tell a different story. So Vincent helped me find some amazing stories. Like, he found a guy who was a gravedigger during apartheid and was burying these masses of bodies, people that were being lynched and killed, and but then also now burying all the people dying from AIDS. But he had a very interesting story to tell, and I got to photograph funerals of all things, which was actually kind of fun. I mean, it sounds weird, but they're so joyful. It's a singing culture. They sing. It's beautiful. Anyway, another story was a lady who came to their church, had HIV. She got it from her husband, who was a trucker, and, you know, kind of sleeping around while he was out there and that kind of thing. And but she felt comfortable telling the pastor, which allowed her to kind of come out in a way, because it's very stigmatized at that time, which then allowed her the courage to go get ARV treatment. Because by going to the treatment, you're basically saying, hey, I'm standing in the line that says I have HIV, basically. So we told hopeful stories like that were, you know, the redemptive side of a tragedy, of a epidemic.
And what a cool way to showcase how storytelling can help change someone's life. That's actually the focus of it, is inspiring people that watch the content, but also enabling the people that are in the content to kind of come to that reality.
The thing that struck me during grad school, during doing that process, was I read a study that said, it's under the idea, the theory of cultivation theory. Under that, if you look at just news, the studies showed that the more news you consume, the higher you estimate crime rates to be, to the point where they're higher than the real crime rates. And that really struck me, and that kind of goes along with the whole redemptive lens, right? Like, if the news is showing us all this negativity, and I'm not saying, if you even take out false news and fake news and just the real news, it happened, but they're reporting on it disproportional to what the reality of the world is. And so we need more positive stories and more encouragement, because that leads you to a place of fear where you're now the potential that's in you is locked up. Right?
Oh, yeah.
And so that feeling you get after you watch the news, or you just get on your Facebook feed and you're just like, politics, this and that, and whatever, and you're just like,
negativity overflow,
it shuts you down, right? And so I want to do the opposite. I want to tell stories that inspire people. That, like, after a TED Talk where you're just like, dang, let's do it. You know, like, it inspires you to get out, and I feel like that is what people are.
And something I think that's really cool, and I think you might have hit on this before in some of our other conversations, but like, stories can move you to action, but negativity almost just moves you to like a reaction state where you're like hidden and you might talk about it with your friends, but it doesn't really move you to do much. If you're inspired by a story and you can uncover this, like someone else is doing something really unique, like I can help channel that energy to go out and do something myself, even if it's not exactly in line with that piece of content, which I think is incredible. So the first project really had an impact not only on this community, but an impact on you as well. And then from there, it was stories are my jam, it seems like. And it's just like, let me find the best ways to continue telling these stories. And there's a lot of people right now that I think are really interested in the content space. You know, brands put a lot of focus on video. People put a lot of focus on video. Social media is at the core of brand validation, personal validation. So I want you to kind of run through how you took this passion and experience from video, from your thesis into starting your own business, and how were you able to not only support yourself through that journey, but also build the network you needed to then support your business.
Yeah. Okay. So the key was, I wouldn't say we took a year off, but we took a year away. My wife and I. It wasn't because we needed to get away. We felt called, like, let's go to Mama Lodi for a year. There was an opportunity to do an internship through an organization that I'm now on the board of called Africa Revolution. So we did that, and it was amazing. It transformed how we thought about the world, but it gave us space to just be, you know? I mean, our whole purpose every day was to just go and serve the community. We had no other agenda, you know, which was amazing. So it really, at the end of that year, coming back, we came back pregnant, which was cool. Yeah. Our first kid was conceived in South Africa. It's an awesome story behind that. But I was ready to start something. I didn't know exactly what, but I wanted to start something telling stories. And so I just started freelancing, using whatever contacts I could get. Honestly, I was a little bit back to the hustle.
Yeah.
You know, earlier, like shooting weddings, shooting portraits. I was still making websites and doing Flash stuff. And
was there a moment in your year away where you kind of flipped the switch that when I go back to the United States, I'm doing my own thing? Yeah. Did something cause that? Twitter.
Yeah, and this is gonna sound crazy, but Twitter was starting to become a thing. Yeah. And I was playing with it, and I had all these photos with me of our cats. We left them behind. We had an awesome cat sitter. Yeah. Thank you so much, cat sitter. She was willing to take our cute cats, but then give them back. That was the thing. Yeah. People were like, "I'll take them, but I want them forever."
I'm gonna have them for a year.
So I had all these pictures. I made a Twitter account for my cats.
Oh, nice.
And
like the dog,
it started taking off, you know. And I was learning some hacks and how to get like Twitter followers and whatever. And so I just kind of became enamored with this idea of online business, doing something like that. And I mean, I think now I haven't touched their Twitter account in years, but they still have like 15,000 followers or something. They were paying for our Netflix at one point.
That's awesome.
Like getting paid to tweet and stuff. It was insane. So that really that frontier of making money on the web really kind of grabbed me that year. And I was like, I want to do something.
I think a lot of people have that light bulb moment where like, all right, you can make money through this social media vehicle. You can make money through this content. And then it gets flipped into something different. But I love that light bulb story. It's cats. Like,
you know, I knew. So I worked at WRL.com back after grad school before we moved to Africa for a couple of years, and I knew from working there that their pet slideshow is like one of the most gets the most hits consistently. I mean, lots of different content, especially if there's a hurricane or something. But like consistently every day, the pet slideshow. And so I was like, there's something about this. Like, I know I can harness this somehow.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
But then you didn't go into cat photography,
no,
so we're all good.
No,
not as
really.
exciting.
I didn't,
So you're on the hustle then, trying to build this business. And the freelance hustle, you know, a lot of people talk about splitting their time between getting clients but then actually executing on what your skill is. And it sounds like you had to go through a good period there where you were finding that balance between execution and business development by yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, it was for sure a hustle. I mean, I had a kid, providing for the family, you know, boom, boom, doing it. But really what was interesting is I started making a transition to video storytelling because I had all the gear, you know, The 5D Mark II had come out. I had that. I was using that for stills mostly, but I would play around with video. And finally, a client came along and just said, we want to do a video every month. We've tried to do it internally with interns and this and that, but it just keeps stalling out. We need someone to just run with this. Yeah. And so we did a test video, and they loved it. And so I started doing a video every month about doctors doing interesting things outside the hospital.
Okay.
It was brand content.
Yeah.
And it was so much fun. I mean, talk about positive stories and encouraging. You know, you're meeting these people who are pretty amazing people. They've accomplished a lot. They're extremely high excelling people.
Oh, yeah.
And I get to hang out with them for like half a day learning, you know.
That's awesome.
Learning not just about their expertise, but this hobby or some other, you know, skydiving or rock band or rock climbing or whatever it is, you know. And so it was really cool. And I felt like that was kind of my 10,000 hours Malcolm Gladwell kind of moment. It was like, all right, we're just going to do it every month. And it was very humbling
Consistency.
because I realized I thought I was a storyteller, but video storytelling, as you know, doing the videos here at Monty, it's a lot of work, you know, and it's hard to do it as a one-man band. And so I started pulling in friends that were helping me out. Hey, help me figure this out, you know, because it was a lot of spray and pray, you know, just go shoot a bunch of stuff and then figure it out. Yeah. You know.
And when you can kind of flip, I mean, just from the stuff that I've done, when you can actually put the story before you start shooting as opposed to trying to put the story together during the edit, then you make the process a lot easier.
Yes.
And nail down that formula, if you will, for what, you know, you can really create a piece of content that does move people.
Right. If you have a better idea of what you're trying to go into to create, then you know what you need, you know what you don't need. You can make better decisions and then have better ingredients.
Great lesson for all of the content creators tuning in. Pre-plan.
Yeah, that's right.
100%. So I want to kind of get into more about how you think about creating content for brands and what, you know, brands could learn from you as someone who has created, you know, hundreds of videos for people. When you are approaching a brand and wanting to, you know, create something, if just another like CPG brand comes up to you, like where do you really start the conversation to unveil that story or a piece of content that would inspire you to create or, you know, someone to watch?
Yeah. Okay. So it starts kind of at the heart of the culture of the company, the values. Who are they? What do they care about? What is the personality? Because I mean, corporations are people according to the law, even, right? But actually, you know, your brand, it's basically you're creating a person, and that's because people connect to other people. We don't connect to a company per se. We don't connect to like colors and all these things. Like those things represent some sort of personality, right? And then we're familiar with talking about that brand personality,
100%,
brand persona, and that kind of thing. So we gotta understand that, but then very quickly we have to move to understand who we're talking to, who are we trying to engage, what is their world like, what do they care about? Because really they're the hero in your story, you're the guide, and so
almost like a position of empathy.
Absolutely, you need to have empathy. The guide has empathy. They've been there, they've done that, they understand the struggles. They also have authority, and that's how they're different than the hero, is that they've been there, they do have the experience, they have some sort of expertise about how to help the hero accomplish what they're trying to accomplish. And so we have to understand those heroes' desires, what their struggles are, what their pain is, what transformation looks like, going from before to after they've engaged with the brand. What does that look like? What does success look like? What does failure look like? And so we get a picture
what was the effect that the brand had on that moment? Okay.
Exactly. So, I mean, if I just take Monty, right? If I take like a Monday morning struggle, I'm like, man, I've got so much to do this week. I got to get organized to like lead people. I got to figure out what we're doing. But all these things start piling on to me. And I'm like, let me just stop, pause, get the Monty flowing. Now I'm pepped up to go, all right, let's plow through it. You know, so before I was weak and just sluggish, bogged down, and now I've got that extra boost that I need to plow through the week. So that's just like a simple transformation.
Well, I think a great comparison to kind of show where the thought process is to go through how that piece of content needs to be developed. And then So for someone that's trying to kind of incorporate into this brand, I think we talked through, or to incorporate into a brand of their own, trying to take some pieces of this conversation, really finding that hero in the story, finding the effect of your product. Are there any other kind of like check marks on the list that you can think through that would help someone develop a piece?
I mean, I think if you start at the heart, meaning what moves you, as the storyteller, what moves you? Start there, because that's going to propel you and excite you. It's going to make you excited to work on it. It's going to make you excited to like dive into that edit, even though you're not maybe 100% sure still what that's going to look like. That will propel you, and I think if you feel something, then hopefully your audience is going to feel something too.
And from the little bit I've done, like the emotion you put into that piece, into the creation, actually really comes through at the end of it. Whether it's like an audio piece, how I'm, the motions I'm making as I'm saying something to you, or the effort I'm putting into getting that shot, it carries through the whole process, which is really interesting to me. There's almost like this energy of some sort that can really make or break a piece at the end of the day, which is super interesting.
I think there's one more piece too. That's pretty essential if you're going to tell a story. And so our brains are wired in such a way that if you introduce a question, we have to find out the answer.
I love this.
They just won't rest. And I call it sometimes I refer to it as like Sherlock Holmes' brain. If you're familiar with sometimes he'll be solving a problem and he'll just stop and go do something else, but his brain is still working on it in the background. That's how powerful that open question is. We call it a binary question. And so if you can introduce a question early on, you understand what the character wants, who they are, but then this question pops up. And are they going to get it or not? Or are they going to, succeed at this or fail? Those kind of questions will really keep your audience's attention and propel your narrative, if you will. And then that question really, the meat of your story is unraveling that question, complicating it. It's not just, will they make it, but now there's more obstacles we didn't even know about first. And so...
And you keep going through this.
You solve one,
function,
that creates another one. And that really propels a good story. If you look at any kind of content online or like on Netflix or Hulu, whatever, that's good. I mean, that is really what's going on. You just look at it and they've given you some tension. And we get sucked in. Especially if you're competing in a social media type landscape that is designed to just breeze by. Literally you're scrolling. The content is moving, like you know what I mean. It's like a conveyor belt. You just have to
Oh my gosh!
You can pause it, but it just naturally wants you to keep going. And the question going on in your mind as you're scrolling is this worth my time? Is this piece worth it? No, it's not. Move on. Oh, this is interesting. So if you're going to be one of those people that gets in front of somebody, you need to really have a good hook.
I love that.
Good tension.
Yeah, I think that's a great piece for people to take to take with them as they're developing their own. And you're also a business owner here, so like you definitely had a fun journey growing this venture here in Durham. 8-time Emmy award-winning video marketing group, StoryDriven. And there's got to be some fun stories along the way of times where you tripped up, some mistakes you might have had along the way that people could learn from. Is there anything you can share for other business owners out there?
So I would say the biggest one is listen to your customers. I think it's really tempting if you do excellent work and you're really proud of it and whatever to kind of get sucked into that. And go, I'm so awesome, and like you forget to listen. And so it's really important to listen to your customers, hear what they need, because I mean, more than ever, the world is changing, and we can experience that now because the world is so connected through social media, 24/7 news, all these things. We can see that change happening. I mean, it's crazy, right? Like I feel like decades ago, things were just kind of the same and then some big thing would happen and everything would change. But like, it's changing all the time. So you have to stay with it. You can't snooze, and you have to stay relevant to your customers. And your customers really have to be the heroes, not just in a marketing way, but like literally.
Well, they're the most important piece.
You're serving your customers, or else you're going out of business.
100%.
You're not going to be relevant. And so there's been times, I can't think of a very super specific good story with that, but there's been times where we sort of lost track of that, and we kind of snapped back and go, oh crap, like we lost something.
Were there any like systems you put in place to help promote that listening, or is it kind of a frame of mind going into these conversations when you onboard a new client? Maybe you do a follow up after you deliver. Have you found any things that's really helped you do that listening?
Yeah. So having a follow up after the project to say, what went well. Like, I stole this from a friend of mine who's another entrepreneur. He said, the 3 questions are, what should we keep doing? What worked? What should we stop doing? And what should we start doing?
I love that.
And that's, that's just an easy framework. Answer those 3 questions. Give them opportunity to tell you what worked and what didn't work. And then sometimes it's hard to hear. But
if you start the conversation yourself, then I think people are more willing to.
And you'll learn. If you listen well, you'll learn how to keep doing what you're doing better and make it more relevant. The other thing we do is, and I was just updating our calendar to remind us to do this. Once a year, we just send out a survey to our clients. And it's 10 questions. What can we? It's things like, how would you describe what we do? How can we continue to just talk about what we do in a way that people get? And it's easiest to just use their language, Don't make up something new.
100%.
Go back to how they're already telling other people.
You could sit around in a room and try to come up with this thing, but sometimes the best, like some of the customer comments we get on our website are some of the best, scripts for ads or whatever. And if you go look at that and find what problems you're solving, put the customer as the hero, you can really find some great stuff to use in those other materials.
Totally.
So that's really cool to see how you guys have incorporated that. Another question about you.
Sure.
What would you say your best skill is, and what would you say your worst skill is?
I'll start with the worst because it's ironic. Right, I'm a
Oh,
professional storyteller. It's communication. I'm a terrible communicator on certain levels. Like when it's like delegating tasks, I have to be very, very intentional to like make sure I'm very clear about what needs to be done. And when it needs to be done by. Because my default is just kind of like, hey, run with that, and I hope. I'm kind of a chill person, so it's just hard for me to like.
I see, like really kind of
be
put the hammer
direct.
down and,
Hey, we need this done by this date. Let me know if you have any questions. Like it's It takes me a lot of effort to be disciplined like that. I think the thing that I'm best at is just also it's so weird. It's in the same line. It's being relational.
Okay.
I think that's what's helped me sell StoryDriven is just making friends with people. And that was kind of cool. And like they remember me. They're like, we love working with Nathan. And so that's really been our marketing strategy, honestly. It's like
100%. And I think like a lot of the sales process can be flipped in someone's mind and say it's just relationship building. Like I'm finding these people that connect with what we're doing, and if there's a way that we add value, then we do. And that's cool to hear how that plays into a skill set of yours as well.
And I want to make the experience. A lot of times when you're working with creatives, it can be kind of like, ooh, the creative, and, they're all like touchy and beauty and whatever. I want it to be chill. I want the process. It's intense because usually we're solving some kind of problem, and so it's not easy to just, it doesn't just pop out of the sky. You have to put some work into that. But I want the process to be easy. I want it to be, I don't want the client to be nervous to like give us feedback or what, what I mean? Like, I want it to just be,
and that's
smooth,
a rapport
process
that you carry with them as well. So last one, then we'll jump into some wrap up. You have 5 minutes to speak to the world. What do you say?
I don't even need 5 minutes. I would just tell them slow down.
Okay.
Slow the frick down. The world, we kind of been talking about this on and on throughout the thing, like this podcast, like the world is moving really fast. And I think it's easy to get sucked up into that and then to lose, kind of like wake up one day and go, where am I?
What happened last month?
Classic Talking Heads song that kind of dates my generation. You wake up and go, whoa, how did I get here? This is not my beautiful wife. This is not my beautiful house. Like, you just sort of go, the days go by and you're like, what? Where did I go? And so I think it's important, especially, I don't know when this will air, but right now we're in December. And January is coming. It's a new year. It's a great time. It's a fast time of year. And so you feel that need. But also, you like, especially that week after Christmas and before New Year's, generally people have that off or it's really slow. It's a great time of year to just go out in the woods somewhere away And just, one, it's going to take a couple days to decompress. You're going to feel anxious and weird and just I should be doing something. I should be checking. Definitely don't take any devices. Don't just unplug. I love that, and just listen. Listen to yourself. If you're a religious person, listen to God. Like, just slow down, because you'll recenter and you can correct your path if you're off course.
I hear a lot of people talk about this whole idea of like this momentum that we live in. There's people are always trying to like pursue momentum, build momentum, and it's kind of like this constant fight just to build this thing. And at some point, you do have to say, take a time, reset. Where are the priorities? Where is the true value in, you know, my life, what I'm doing? And that's a great way, I think, to think about executing on that reset, finding that time towards the beginning of the year to sit back and say, hey, this is what's really going on.
My sub point for that would be, somebody told me that, you know, if you're a knowledge worker, meaning like most of the day you're typing and using your brain, what is good to do in your time off is using your hands.
Okay.
And it's the opposite. If you work with your hands all day, you know, manual labor or whatever, you know, whatever craft kind of thing, then when your time off, you should use your brain. You should like read a book or whatever. But it's the opposite. So probably a lot of people on this podcast are knowledge work type workers. Do something with your hands, because and that's a good time for your brain to be processing. So that's what I mean by slowing down. It's hard to just go sit in the woods and like meditate. It's really hard. I mean, people study their whole years to try to be like Buddha or whatever. You know, like that's super hard. It's good if you have something for your hands to do, like woodworking or knitting or, you know, even just raking leaves. You know, like keep your body moving. That will help you. And actually, using your hands builds empathy, which is
interesting.
Crazy.
What a crazy connection.
I don't know how that works, but
so cool. Well, Nathan, thank you so much for coming out today. Super cool to learn about your journey, storytelling. Where can people find you and StoryDriven online?
Cool. So our website is wearestoryDriven.com. And then on all the socials, we're StoryDriven without any vowels. So StoryDriven.
Nice. Perfect. Nathan, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Right.